everybody, Ray here, back at it again with another Edison Spotlight. Today we are going to be going over insect control, specifically insect flip control. This deck list is brewed up by me, actually. There's a lot of insect brews and builds in Edison, because there is a surprisingly large pool of pre-playable insects, mainly thanks to cards like Aztekapede and Doomdozer. Doomdozer showing its true strength in decks like Demise or TK, where the vanillas that you would mill, like Insect Knight off of Advanced Ritual Art, really showed the power of Doomdozer by just being a really big special summonable beat stick. Basically, the point of this deck is to kind of play almost like a Gore era control deck. I mean, we're running Man-Eater Bug in the main deck, unironically. I think that should say it all. But let's break down the card by card. Aztekapede and Doomdozer are your boss monsters. Your entire deck is based around filling up your grave with insects, so that you can very easily summon these and end the game in a big turn where you swarm the field with as many insects as you can. Howling Insect floats into other 1500 or less attack insects. You can go on a potentially really long chain with this, where you go Howling Insect into Howling Insect into Howling Insect into something like emmersblade. Magical Merchant is a really nice flip effect monster. It lets us excavate cards until we get a spell or trap and add it to our hand. So it's a 1-for-1. So although we will almost always be having it be run over by an attack, that's alright, because we not only potentially fill up the grave with other insects to feed our Aztekapedes and our Doomdozers, we also get a potential spell or trap that can help advance the game state. Man-Eater Bug is essentially here because it is a in-engine Raikou that helps us fill up the grid by essentially sacrificing itself as a set card for our opponent to walk into. There's not much else to say. It's a very simple card. It's been around for a very long time. Double X Saber emmersblade. Well, when it's sent to the graveyard, you can special summon itself from the deck. I am at least 90% sure how this works, but part of me worries if double X Sabers are still classed as X Sabers. I want to say that's how that works, and I'm not going to look like an idiot when I upload this and I've been cheating the whole time, but there we go. That's what you get when you make your own builds and you don't fully look up rulings. Insect Knight is the strongest normal summonable insect. It's a very funny card, and we can no longer ignore his unmatched battle prowess. We run Heavy Storm and MST. We're going to want to go in for the Heavy Storm when we're going to go for our game-ending plays. Smashing Ground's good for getting annoying cards off the field that we can't beat over with our big insects, even with Solidarity. Solidarity is very important because all of our monsters are insects, and the moment we get a Solidarity in play, they become very big and legitimate threats. Verdant Sanctuary is amazing with Emmersblade, Man-Eater Bug and Howling Insect, because we're already benefiting off of, also Magical Merchant, because we already benefit and get a 1-for-1 off of them dying. So with Verdant Sanctuary, you get a 2-for-1 off them dying. And your opponents are really incentivized to get rid of Verdant Sanctuary as soon as possible, because you will just continue to get cards from your deck the more that it stays on the field, essentially. And your opponent's really going to want to out that, or else you are going to out tempo them, because you will have so many cards in your hand and so many insects in the grave, you'll just be able to throw out Doomdozers. Bottomless Trap Hole. This is a control deck. We play the very standard suite of traps because of it. Bottomless stops our opponent summoning threats that could potentially out our insects, assuming we don't have something like a Man-Eater set that we would rather them walk into. 3D Prison outs a lot of things. It's a trap that a lot of decks are scared of in this format. Mirror Force is too powerful to not run. Solemn Judgment, a good Solemn Judgment can really help swing the tempo of a game in a control deck, because if your opponent is pushing for a win, but then you Solemn Judgment their Heavy Storm, that can win you the game on the spot. I've seen that type of thing happen quite a lot. Starlight Road is nice as essentially just back row protection, because we do run, a good chunk of back row, and we want our Verdant Sanctuaries and our Solidarities to stay on the field so that we can continue to benefit off them. The one of Torrential Tribute is more if we are in more of a losing position, because, well, it's not always awful to just have our insects go to the grave. Sometimes it's preferable than having them just beat over ours. Plus, this does trigger Verdant Sanctuary, so sometimes you don't even really go negative off of a Torrential Tribute. Sometimes you even plus with Verdant Sanctuary on the field. And that's about it for the card by card. This isn't the most, again, complex deck. Fill your graveyard with insects, out-tempo your opponent, and when you're ready to go for a kill turn, you hit their back row and you just push, ideally with Solidarity in play. Now, for the side deck, we aren't running anything fancy or special here. We could probably run Rivalry of Warlords if we wanted, actually. But I always find side decks are a very personal thing based on what matchups you feel your deck is most scared of. Soul Release is just kind of my pet card at this point. It's still, again, probably arguably worse than DD Crow in a lot of situations, but it's up to you. We don't really care about losing the effects of our lights and our darks, because the only light we run is Magical Merchant, and we run no dark. So again, it's effectively skill drain against certain decks. We hate Monarchs, so we run 3 Mask of Restrict. The Starlight Rod's nice because they're probably going to be going for mass removal, especially in the second game when they know what we're playing. Especially if we don't have Verdant Sanctuary on the field, so they're more, it's better for them to push before we get it on the field so our cards effectively replace themselves. And for the extra deck, we literally just have the Stardust Dragons for the Starlight Rod. A simple control deck like this doesn't really need the extra decks, so yeah. Usually, this is where I would show some test hands, but I've actually gone out and gotten a replay for this. Yeah, I'm trying to slightly up the production quality and effort behind this series, as I hope the editing in the videos show. So we're actually going to go over the replay and explain the logic behind the plays that I make. Alright, so here's a game I had playing against a Flamvel Lightsworn variant, which is very much a real deck in this format. And I was a little worried that my little bug brew wouldn't be able to do much. Now, they elected to go first, unsurprisingly, and they just set one pass since they opened up JD, Foolish Burial, Gauze, Mirror Force, and Brain Control, and they set the Bottomless. That's interesting. Now, in terms of what we want to do, setting a Maneater Bug is probably the safest bet. Very few people have ways to outset cards main deck, and it puts a body on the board. If they walk into it, they lose a monster and go 1 for 1, and then we have Fuel for our Aztekapede in our hand. And I didn't know what they had set at this point, but I figured, it's probably worth going 1 for 1 with it, because I have enough traps of my own that I can slow them down until I draw into another threat. So that's exactly what I do. I don't set both here because I don't want to be greedy. Edison is very much a format where you are going to be punished for playing greedy. They go for Foolish into Wolf, which I was a little confused by, but looking back, I probably should have took that as the read, as they don't have a lot good in their hand. Because, a lot of Lightsworn lists don't even play Foolish anymore, because you want every card you play to be extremely high impact in Lightsworn, right? Because you're likely to be milling them. Now, I choose to not Bottomless the Wolf here, because I know he's going to walk into the Maneater Bug anyway. So I'd rather not waste a spell like that when he might have a more, immediate threat in his hand that he's holding off till main phase 2. Luckily he doesn't, so he just passes turn. I get the Verdant Sanctuary here, and this is why I feel really confident with just slapping down this Aztekapede, because I know even if he has the Bottomless, because Verdant Sanctuary specifically said when a face-up monster is destroyed by battle or card effect, Bottomless destroys, and because it's technically still on the field when that happens, Verdant Sanctuary still triggers, I believe. So I just get to replace it with an Insect Knight, and now I know they're free of back row, I can start applying pressure. This is one of the very nice things about Verdant Sanctuary. It's just so good for just getting in and having to not worry as much about a lot of things. like, Mirror Force does nothing in the face of Verdant Sanctuary sometimes. Because if you're going to immediately replace things like Azteca Beads, that's great. So they have to use the Lila to out the Verdant Sanctuary, which is, I think that was actually the correct move if you don't know my other set, because they've seen already what it can do, and they don't want to basically lose the game here. And obviously there's no way they're beating them in an Insect Knight. The only normal summon in like Swans that can do that is Jane, and not even... oh, and they forget to mill during end phase here. They're probably a new player, people forget these things. Thinking about it, playing the Solidarity here probably wasn't the best play. Again, I got a little greedy here because I felt like I was winning. And this is an important thing to remember. Right, don't get too greedy even if you're feeling like you're in a winning position. A very common thing you'll find people do in a lot of games is the moment they start gaining a lot of, advantage and it looks like things are on the up, they'll basically go ahead and start playing greedily, which is one of the things I do here. I'm like, oh, wow, he hasn't played a card next turn, let me go all in. I set the D prison here, I believe. I might be wrong, but there's really isn't a reason for me to. I don't normal summon the emmersblade because I feel like he has Mirror Force. I had the read because I figured there's no reason he wouldn't have activated that trap by now unless it was and he was just waiting for it to be good value. And then I believe he goes for the Heavy Storm here. Yeah, he goes Rekindling. Yeah, he attacks into our set so he can get his Fire Dog effect. Again, I really hope this is how emmersblade works, or I'm going to look stupid. I should have probably double-checked this before I included this in my deck, but hey, I'm sure if I'm wrong, you're all going to tell me in the comments. So yeah, there's not much to say here. This is a pretty standard play. Yeah, so he goes main phase 2. And he decides to Synchro into a Thought Ruler Arching, but that bottomless trap hole that we decided to save from turn 1 has really come back to help us out here. You do want to, a lot of people, especially learning the format, just shotgun the bottomless on the first threat they see. But you have to remember, most decks only run 2 pieces of spell and trap removal. It is okay to hold off a trap for when you think it would be better. I got really greedy here. I'm in a winning position. There is basically no reason for me to set this D prison. And I didn't even need to summon the other Insect Knight, but I just wanted to get in for game. This was especially a misplay because I already had the read that he had in Mirror Force, which is why I decided to set the emmersblade in the first place. So yeah, this is all on me. I didn't even need... you could argue it was fine with me playing the Solidarity because I had a second one in hand, so it wouldn't have mattered as much if I lost it. But yeah. I also feel like it was a misplay because even if it wasn't Mirror Force, let's say it's Torrential Tribute. That extra Insect Knight, I was just being a bit greedy. Now, it's important to also remember to not play the game too safe. Because playing it too safe means you never attack. You do have to get in while you can. The difference is knowing what a pressure you can safely apply, basically. A lot of opponents, even if they'll hold off a Mirror Force and they'll let you get in like, what, 1400, 1900 damage. Because obviously their logic is, oh, I'd rather go for that, later. So what you do is, you play into that mentality, and you just slowly poke at them, trying to bait out their traps, until you hold off for the big play when you do have back row removal. And here I just Solidarity the Doomdozer, which wins me the game because that puts Doomdozer up to a lot of attack, which is enough to kill him in one swing. So the gauze he had in hand didn't even matter. I want to pretend I was giant-brained here and was playing around the gauze. I wasn't entirely doing it for that reason. I just wanted to make sure I ended the game there and then. But that is an important thing to remember. If you can end the game in one attack, you do want to, because gauze is a very real threat, and it can lose you the game if you get gauzed at the wrong time. So yeah, that was the replay that we've looked over now. Hopefully that should give you an idea of how this deck plays and what it does, and maybe it'll even inspire you to try this garbage pile of a 40 card deck. And as always, have a good one.